To the violence in Mexico now, clashes erupting in western parts of the country after the killing of a cartel leader known as El Mencho. American tourists, now some of them trapped, scrambling to find flights home amid widespread fires, roadblocks, and cartel chaos.
One of them is Eugene Marchenko. The Charleston native and his wife arrived in Mexico only a day earlier and were forced to evacuate. Thanks for joining us. This has got to be a scary situation. What happened? What were you looking at? What did you see firsthand when you were there?
Well, it's very interesting because we came here to relax and get away from family, get away from work, and just have a time to ourselves. And literally the first morning that we're here, I'm waking up to horns blaring, not knowing what's going on. Decided to look out the window, which you can see the images there. And there's just smoke everywhere. Right underneath our building in the main highway, there's 4 cars blocking the road, just perpendicular to the road, not letting anybody through, completely on fire. 2 at a gas station across the street, which of course that was a really big concern, fire at a gas station. And that was around 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And then throughout the day, we can just hear explosions, and we can hear more and more sounds coming from all over the city, big booms, and there just would be plumes of smoke everywhere. And then around 12:30, where you see there, that's that tanker that caught on fire at the gas station across the street, which is when we were evacuated from the building because of fears of explosions. And the building is only maybe 30, 50 feet across the road from us, you know what I mean? So from the gas station, so it's very, very close, and it was definitely a very concerning time.
What were you thinking? I mean, when you see the fire and we're watching the videos that you're taking here, I mean, did you turn on the news, or did you get on your phone? I mean, obviously you must be wondering what the heck is happening here.
Yeah, it's not your average fender bender.
No.
I definitely knew that much. And the first thing I started doing is I started messaging friends back home, seeing if they knew anything that was happening on the news. And of course, nothing, there was no news being reported anywhere. And then actually I reached out to a few different news stations to see if they had any ideas as to what was going on. Started looking at the U.S. Embassy websites, and at this point it was just completely dark. And then over time on the rumor mill, there was different speculations of what could have happened with the cartel. And of course, none of that came true. And eventually the news started coming out that there was an operation that took out one of their operatives.
Let's take a look. You took photos of pharmacies and corner stores that were just completely burned down. It's not just the cartels involved in the violence. Apparently, younger crowds were also breaking into buildings, taking this as an opportunity to go loot. Is that right?
Yeah. So what was happening is once the buildings, as you see there, once they were done burning, younger crowds would actually break the windows, and some of the windows are already broken, and they would just get in and they would go through the stuff and look for opportunities to take things and take waters and take beer and take all kinds of snacks and everything they can get their hands on.
What was it like for you taking these photos, Eugene? Because we spoke with someone else who was trapped, and they couldn't get out. They're staying at their Airbnb. They're not leaving. Clearly, you left where you're staying. You must have felt comfortable enough to do so. Did you notice that the streets were empty, or can you describe what you felt walking out, snapping these photos?
Actually, I did not feel comfortable at all. It was more for the sake of necessity. We needed water, we needed food, because, when you stay at an Airbnb, it's not an all-inclusive where you actually have to provide for yourself. And the first thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that I had some cash. So that was actually me looking for cash and me looking for food, where we actually finally found a convenience store that was rationing out food. And, it wasn't like, I want this, that, and the other. Is here, take this. This is what you get. Got a couple sandwiches. And so we finally had some food that night once everything started dying down. But it was very uncomfortable because there was motorcyclists everywhere, and a lot of the commotion, everything that was happening was being caused by people on motorcycles that could make a quick getaway. And so every time I would see a motorcycle, I had that very uneasy feeling. I would duck behind a car, behind a corner, and a lot of people were very nice. They would say, "Come inside, it's not safe." And so as I was moving down the streets, people would ask me if I needed help, if I needed to walk in. And at one point, there was a crowd of maybe 10, 15 motorcycles just revving their engines and just driving through the streets. I have no idea what they were doing. I can't speculate, but that was definitely one of the more concerning moments. And one of the locals said, in Spanish, it's like, come here, come here, come here, come inside. It's not safe for you. And they actually let me come into their building and wait until the motorcycles passed by.
I'm Sean Kreisman. For stories and content just like this, check out National Report weekdays 9 to noon, only on Newsmax.